Hi guys, this is Paige from Paperbacks and Lattes, and today I will be giving you some fantasy romance recommendations. So the video I was going to do next was some of my favorite fantasy authors, but I think I'm going to change it up a bit and give you just some of my favorite fantasy romance book recommendations, because I have just really been into fantasy romance lately. I really just have been kind of craving it lately, and I was just folding clothes and watching some of my favorite YouTubers fantasy romance recs, and it inspired me to make one of my own. So I have some ones on my list that are pretty popular. I'm sure most people have read, but then there are some I think on here that are not quite as popular, or they might have been back in the day, not sure. But these are my favorites, so I wanted to share them. So the first series I want to share is the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I absolutely love this. I have just read this year. I'm kind of late to the game on all this, but it was such a pleasure to read the series. This has to do with like fae, and I love any kind of books to do with fae, fairies, Seelie Court, all that kind of thing. So this is a human girl who she kills a wolf that was it was a very massive wolf, and so they a fae comes and takes her, and she's pretty much like his, I wouldn't say prisoner, because he doesn't treat her badly. He treats her very nicely. But he is the lord or the king of the spring court, and there's different courts in the fairy realm, and so she has to pretty much sacrifice her life in exchange for the fairy she killed. And so she had to leave her family, and now she lives with Tamlin in the spring court. And there are 4 books out right now. The cover was just revealed for the 5th one that's going to be coming out, so there will be a 5th one. But the first one is A Court of Thorns and Roses. The second one is A Court of Mist and Fury. The third one is A Court of Wings and Ruin. And the 4th one, which is like a novella, it's A Court of Frost and Starlight. So there is, I can't really go into the following books in the series because it would, lots of spoilers, but it goes into her life in the fairy realm, and she has to try to help break a curse because there's this evil person trying to take over, and so she has put a curse on, the lands, and so she is the one that has to try to break the curse. And then that's just within the first book, and then the second and the third books, there are lots of action going on because there's a war they go through. There's romance, of course. Those are pretty epic romance in this series. And so I just love this series so much, and I highly recommend it. The second series I want to recommend, although I've only read the first one in the series, I'm actually planning on reading the second one soon. But I had to include it because the first one is so good. I've heard highly recommended things about the following books also, but I wanted to recommend it. This is the Cursebreaker series by Bridget Kimmerer. The first one is A Curse So Dark and Lonely, and that is the one that I have read. This is like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, because there is this girl, she is accidentally kidnapped because she saves the person who was being kidnapped from being kidnapped, and so she's taken in that person's place, and she's taken to the Fae realm, and there she is like their last hope. A curse has been put on the prince that he turns into this beast, and if he doesn't fall in love, if he doesn't fall in love and she doesn't fall in love with him before, I think it's the month is out, then he will be like a beast forever. And time is running out, and the prince falls in love with her, but she has issues back home. She has a brother and a mom who is sick, and so she leaves to go back home, and he does turn into a beast. That is just all in the first book. The second book goes into more, which I have not read, but I am planning on reading it. But the first one was so good, and I really enjoyed it, so I had to include it on this list. The next one I want to recommend is the Graceling series by Kristen Cashore. Oh my goodness, I love the Graceling series, especially the first book in the Graceling series, which is Graceling. In this realm or world, there are people who are born like with the special abilities, and the girl, I cannot remember her name. It's been a while since I've read this series. She was born with the ability to like fight and kill. She has been, I think the king is her uncle, and she has been like his assassin and just person to, like, if somebody's not paying him like they're supposed to, or they broke the law, he sends her after them, and she is tired of doing this. She's tired of fighting and killing these people. She saves this guy who has an ability himself, which first she thinks is strength like herself, but it is actually something else later on. I don't know if that would be a spoiler to tell you or not, but he does have an ability himself. They form this group to try to help people and save these people, and they are going on these missions, and of course she has to eventually tell her uncle, the king, no, and so she's kind of shunned, and there is a lot of action going on in this book. And they also, the girl and the guy, I can't remember names, but they do take like a road trip type of sorts, traveling through the land, and their love story is just so wonderful. They resist, especially her, she resists a lot because she just doesn't feel like she can have that type of life, and their love story is so great. I would definitely call this an epic romance. I loved Graceling. The second book is Fire, which I really like that one as well. This is about a girl. She is born with this ability. She is born like an exotic type of creature, is the best way I know how to put it. She has like flaming red hair, like it's like flaming red and orange. It's unnatural, like it's almost like cartoonish. It's that bright, and she is beyond beautiful to all these people. And she kind of like, once you see her, you fall under her spell type of sort. So she tries to really hide herself. Her dad is evil, and he is one of these beings, and she actually had to take him out because of all the awful things he was doing. And so people really don't trust her, because these beings, they can read your mind, and they can make you do things through, you know, your mind. And so they really do not trust her. They hate her, especially from her father's reputation. They think that she is like him, because not a lot of people know that she's the one that took him out. But there is this war happening between these kingdoms, and she is helping with this war. And the prince, one of the prince is like the general of the army or the military. He's leading his military to fight this war, and he really hates her at first because he thinks that she is evil like her father. He really experienced her father's evilness, and so he first thinks she's just like him. But then as they are traveling, because they're traveling with this huge army, so it's kind of slow to where the battle is going to be, he starts to discover that she is not like her father. She is out to do good, and their love story is so good. Graceling was my favorite, but I definitely loved Fire too. It was just so good. And then the third one in the series is Bitter Blue. This follows a girl named Bitter Blue. Her name's super easy to remember. And she was saved as a young girl from her father. Her father was able to, he had this ability to, he put this idea in your head and that's what you believed. So he could control you through your minds. And he was very, very evil. He was very evil to her mother. He was very evil to her. He was, I mean, he was a despicable human. Well, he wasn't human. He was a despicable creature. But she was rescued from him. She was rescued from him, and later on, she goes to take over his part of the kingdom, because this kingdom is like divided into, I think it was 8 or 9 like realms. And so she goes back to take her rightful place as, you know, queen or whatever of this realm. And she is having to undo a lot of what her dad did because her dad was so evil. And so she's trying to make her realm a better place. And in doing so, she meets this guy who, he's actually like a misfit type of person. He actually steals. And she lies to him about her identity, so he doesn't know who she is. And then, of course, when he finds out, he's pretty, you know, angry about it. But their relationship was good. Not as good as Graceling and Fire, but still it was a good third book to the series, and I greatly enjoyed reading the Graceling Realm by Kristen Cashore. The next series that I really enjoyed is the Wraith King series by Grace Draven. The first book is Radiance. I've really seen a lot of people read Radiance lately. I read it a while back, and I've only read Radiance and the second one, which is, I don't even want to pronounce it. Try to pronounce it. But I've read the first 2 books in that series. This is about, there's these creatures, there's like these humans and these other creatures, and they're not enemies, but they really don't mix because their lives are so different. The creatures, I can't remember what they're called. Oh, the Kai. The Kai are, they're nocturnal, which they live at night and sleep during the day. They have different colored skin. They have claws. They have like fangs as teeth. Their eyes glow, or they have different kind of eyes because, of course, they can only see in the dark. Light pretty much blinds them. And there is this arranged marriage between this girl who is the niece of the king and by this Kai, which is a prince, but he's not in line for the throne. So this is just like an alliance bringing these kingdoms closer together for trade and whatnot. And the Kai, I can't remember his name, he goes to her kingdom to, you know, marry her and then take her back to his land. It's so funny. They each think each other is hideous, and they actually meet beforehand and they don't know who each other is, and they just strike up this casual conversation, and they're both hoping like, oh, I wish I could marry that person because, you know, we had such a friendly conversation. And lo and behold, that's what happens. They end up being married to each other. So the Kai thinks the human food are disgusting. One bite of potatoes nearly makes him just vomit. She has to go to his kingdom, and they have like this pie type of thing with this live creature in it. It's kind of like a scorpion. Ugh. That was disgusting, but she had to eat it. But anyway, those are just some of the differences between them, but they form up this great friendship. Their friendship before love is what really just made this story so sweet. Even though I mean, they called each other ugly. Like, they were not attracted to each other at all. But it was because they cared for each other. They had this great friendship, and then they started caring for each other, and it turned into love. And so they eventually they found each other attractive because they knew that person, not by just a physical want, but by who they are inside. So it was a great love story. The second book goes on into the more action and things that happen to the kingdom. He has to kind of step into a role that he never wanted and help save the kingdom. So it's a really good series, and I recommend it. The next series is the Fire and Thorns series by Ray Carson. This has three books in it that I know. I've read 3 books in the series, not sure if there's any more, but the first one is The Girl of Fire and Thorns. The second one is The Crown of Embers, and the third one is The Bitter Kingdom. So this is about a girl. She is plus size, and she is a princess, but she's the younger princess. She was never destined to take the throne after her father. That went to her older sister. And so she was sent to be a bride for a king for an alliance. And she was born with this, I think they call it a godstone. If I remember correctly, it's been a while. She's born with this godstone, which is this jewel that certain people are born with, like in their belly button type of thing. It's weird, I know. And usually people who were born with these they do great things, and she's never felt, she has very low self-esteem, and she's never done anything great. She feels like she's just a mediocre type of person. And so she goes off to be wed to this king. So she goes to marry this king, and the king is nice, but he is not really in it. Like, he has somebody on the side already. He does not want to give that up. And she just doesn't feel appreciated by him. Things happen. And in the second and third book, a lot of things happen over the course of the series. A lot of action. She's actually goes to the desert type of situation, and she actually forms like this rebel group that fights back against the bad people, and she comes back being badass. I mean, that's just pretty much how I can explain it. She goes through so much character development throughout this series. She starts off where she doesn't have any self-esteem, and then she realizes what she can do, and she just really grows in this series. And she comes back, and the king doesn't even recognize her because, for one thing, she's lost weight, and she just has so much confidence and strength about her that he doesn't even recognize her at first. His son actually is the one that does. And then there is this battle, and the king is killed, and they have to go off on this journey to she has to try to gain this power to defeat the bad guys. And so a small group of them go off, and she falls in love with he's pretty much like her bodyguard, the soldier that's like sworn to protect her. And they have an awesome romance. I love their romance. It's so sweet. And she is just so determined to save this kingdom, this country. And it is such a good series. I know the concept is kind of strange, but I mean, it's fantasy, so it's going to be sometimes. But an excellent series, and I highly recommend it. The next series I have is the Defiance series by C.J. Redwine. It has 3 books in it that I know, at least that I've read. Number 1 is Defiance. Number 2 is Deception. And number 3 is Deliverance. So this is about, this is like, it's almost like a dystopian time, a dystopian world where these creatures live up underground. And they come up through these holes in the ground and they attack people. And so the humans have built like forts or communities and try to, be protected from these creatures who live underground. And this girl lives in one, and her dad is, he goes out on these missions, and he has not come back from his latest mission, and she's very worried about him. So she asks the guy who has like been her dad's apprentice and who she's been in love with for a long time, but he rejected her at some point, so now she kind of hates him. She asks his help, and they go off and try to find her dad. And along the way, there is a lot that happens, of course, over the 3 books. They meet other people out in the world, out in the dangerous open territory. They have to fight these creatures. They have to fight against the bad guys because the commander of like their community, their fort, is really bad. So they're having to fight against him. There is a lot that goes on in the series. She I don't know how many times they escape from these precarious situations, but this is a really action-packed series. And of course, the guy who is like her dad's apprentice, he comes around, and like once he knows that her dad has been compromised and she is alone, like there's like a protectiveness that for her that just clicks in him, and he just wants to protect her, make sure she's safe. And through all that, through their journey, they fall in love with each other, and their romance is very epic as well. And the last series I have for this video is the Remnant Chronicles by Mary E. Pearson. The number 1 book is The Kiss of Deception. Number 2 is The Heart of Betrayal. And the 3rd is The Beauty of Darkness. This is about a girl. I'm not sure if she's a princess. She is, there's an arranged marriage. Again, that's quite a common occurrence in these fantasy books. There is an arranged marriage between her and this prince. And she decides that she is not going to do it. She runs away before even meeting him, and she hides in this little town, and she gets like a job at this like inn that people stay at and eat at. And so she gets a job like in the kitchen helping cook food, even though she's never done anything like that before. But they teach her, the woman who owns the inn, kind of takes her under her wing. And she's there in hiding. And there's these 2 guys that come to the inn. And one is an assassin that was sent to kill her. And one is the prince who she ran out on their marriage, on their wedding. So you don't know which one is which. And they both are very nice to her. They're both very, like you're reading and you just don't know. One is going to hurt her and one is trying to, marry her or bring her back. But then things happen and she is taken. She is kidnapped. And so they both go off to find her. And since they both have fallen in love with her, and she is taken to the bad guys, actually the ones who sent the assassin after her, she is taken to them, and she is held like prisoner there. And then as the books go on, you find out who is who. And the one who is the assassin, of course, he has fallen in love with her. And he is trying to protect her from, like his boss, his king. And then there is the guy the prince who has also fallen in love with her, and he comes to rescue her and bring her back, and it is just a great story. It's almost like it pretty much is a love triangle. I love love triangles, and so this book will keep you on the edge of your seat. You don't ever know who she's going to end up with, and it is just such a wonderful story. Of course, a lot of action that goes on and a lot of like traveling and whatnot, and this is just another awesome series to read. So let me know if you've read any of these books and how you like them, and please, if you have any romance fantasy recommendations, I would love to have them, because I am just really in the fantasy romance mood and I want to read some more. So if you have any recommendations, let me know in the comments below. I hope you guys have had a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.